Princess Diana's brother, Charles Spencer, that a couple of members of her inner circle were essentially on the payroll of the Murdoch press in Britain and others, and led her to distrust figures close to her, wrongly, as it turned out, for those were forged documents, as I say, and led Charles Spencer to be convinced that her interests weren't being served, and Diana and her brother decided that she should speak to Bashir. This was a career-making interview for Bashir, who'd go on to ITV in Britain and interview Michael Jackson, and then came here to ABC News with his executive producer, who later went on to become the head of ABC News. So this was an incredibly important interview, the Diana interview, one gained under deceit and one covered up by the BBC in a so-called investigation just a year or two later that really was papering over a lot of the allegations that have proven to be true.
Just to be clear, Martin Bashir caused documents to be fabricated. I don't think there's anybody who thinks that that's a legitimate journalistic practice, to fabricate documents in order to induce someone to do an interview. And of course, he denies that that was the ultimate reason why Princess Diana agreed to the interview. But be that as it may, I don't know that anybody would argue about that was just simply wrong. But do you think that so even though Chris Cuomo isn't accused of fabricating any information, do you think that these two cases have something in common?
I think they do. I think they tend to fuel the cynicism of what people might reasonably assume media elites do behind closed doors. One, in a sense, was done in private. That is, Martin Bashir commissioning from a graphic designer to forge documents. One was done, in a sense, in public. The clear conflict of interest Chris Cuomo has in effectively promoting his brother as a affable public figure with the public's interests at heart. Although what he did behind closed doors in talking on the phone in these strategizing meeting was again kept secret from the public until the Washington Post disclosed it. What you're seeing is that it's as though the rules don't apply to these figures at the top of the pyramid, that somehow, yes, there are rules against conflict of interest. Yes, there are rules against dishonesty in reporting, but that major institutions are letting those things go if the figures are important enough.
The two media giants in question, CNN and the BBC, are also under scrutiny because of these cases. How would you say they've handled the fallout?
I would say that CNN has managed the fallout at this time without really dealing with it. It's basically said we won't have him do this very narrow thing anymore, but obviously Chris Cuomo gets to be a brother first. I think if you're a brother first, you can question whether or not you should be having the governor of New York on the air at all, and whether you should have not, should apologize for doing that as opposed to only apologizing for counseling his staffers in private. Similarly, the BBC, is doing the full contrition. It has sent, letters handwritten from the top officials to Prince Charles, to Princess Diana's surviving sons, and it said what it did was terribly wrong, and it's ineffectual and compromised in so-called investigation it did a year after the Bashir interview took place in the mid-90s. What it's trying to do now is draw a line under it and saying we are being completely contrite, we are showing total transparency, and we want to move past this so this doesn't endure as part of our relationship with the royal family or our relationship with the public. I think that's the better way to go, but the fact that it took a generation for a public accounting to occur tells you how badly the BBC truly handled this and how deeply they wanted to sinkhole this evidence of their dishonesty.
That was NPR.
It's a little earlier, isn't it? It was just little earlier.
Oh yeah, it wasn't like that when we were gaming.
Now it's gigantic. Oh my god. Is that the forest?
Huh?
Is that the forest?
There's a lot of ground around here, my love.
Switching gears here.
You think somebody's house now got burned?
And laughter is something we all do as human beings, no matter the culture, geographic boundaries, or even personality. It's true. We all laugh. But it's laughter